The American Revolution, in other words, is never finished. It must always be renewed.
Greater love than this hath no man, than that he lay down his life for his friend.
What if it's not envy?
We must take back our cities, and take back our culture, and take back our country. God bless you, and God bless America.
Well, it's our pleasure to introduce to you for the very third time, second time, third time.
Let's go third time.
Mr. Jon Harris. Welcome, Jon Harris.
Thank you, Andrew. 3 times the charm.
It is the third time. Yeah.
But it's the first time in the studio.
In person. That's right. Yeah. So he's here with us in central command of Contramundum.
It's not a green screen, is it?
This is real. This is all real.
100%.
Behind us.
President Nixon, he's real.
He is.
Yeah. And did you see the clip of Bill Murray on Rogan? Where he was talking about because journalists are scum of the earth, disgusting people that
You're telling me this for the first time.
Are horrible, and one of the worst, of course, is the hero of journalists, Bob Woodward. Just a cretin, and Bill Murray is on Rogan because Woodward wrote a book about Bill Murray's friend Belushi, John Belushi, and about and just lied straight up about him. And Murray knew him really, really well and knew that the only people he talked to are like people like tertiarily associated with him that he got all the sourcing from. He's like, this guy just made up stuff about my friend. And so I read like 5 pages of what he wrote. I'm like, Nixon was framed. Nixon, because Woodward is the one that Woodward and Bernstein are the ones that wrote all about Watergate.
Man, wouldn't that be great to have a Watergate series?
That would be good.
We should do that.
We should do we will do a Watergate series one day. So anyway, why was I talking about President Nixon. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Is Nixon in the room with you right now?
Always.
This was you, CJ, right? Is this
No way.
That's mine.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I think California. I think Nixon. I think California.
Yeah, this is why I have an appreciation for California. It was my grandpa's, right? My dad is actually in the studio with us today too. Was it grandpa's? Is that right, Dad? Yeah. They were. We should get him a mic. But he was like they. This is part of Isker lore. This
is such good content.
This is great content. Actually, this is family history stuff.
This is gonna be behind a paper.
I think it is behind a paper. But it was. He was. They were big Nixon. He was a big Nixon guy. Because he was. He was an anti-communist, right, and a good Republican. We were anti-New Dealers. Our family.
You who made California possible?
J.K. Polk. That's why you have him on the wall. Yeah, I mean this because we get this is good content because we get questions about this like why do you have Nixon up there? Why do you have Polk up there? Or there's a lot of times people are like, who is that?
We're gonna get deep into Contramundum lore, and John's just here to watch.
Yeah, that's right. So we should ask John some questions. We should, but I guess I want to get your take on right now is we're gonna release this a little bit later, but as we record this, we are like 40 days, 50 days into the Trump presidency. And the thing that I think is in your wheelhouse is like you have the number of Big Eva, right? I think that's, is that fair to say that you're known for like you got their number? Is that accurate?
I've been tracking them. I mean, I was supposed to like give myself accolades. I mean,
that's right. I'm the guy. Yeah.
Talk to me. I have all the wisdom on Big Eva.
But I guess
I've written a few books.
You were the Big Eva expert. You're Contramundum's official Big Eva expert. Or maybe 80 Robos is. I don't know. But you guys can fight over that. But we've actually never had Adam on. But we got to rectify that too. But,
I was just with him actually a few days ago. We were speaking at a conference together. So
he's a fun guy.
Yeah.
So anyway, so
why are we talking about Big Eva?
Well, because I think like they've reached a whole new level with especially with the situation in Ukraine. Like it's so absurd. Like the level of histrionics that they're demonstrating right now. Like they are so obsessed with making sure that there is not a single living, breathing male in Ukraine above the age of 14. It's insane to me that like they care about that more than like anything else. I mean, I think it's even past the level of like 2020 and BLM.
Well,
right?
let's frame it like this, then. John. Like,
you tell the question.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell the question and the answer.
Yeah, that's what I do. It's my job here.
So this has been going on obviously for a long time. We saw it during COVID. We're seeing it with Zelensky. Every time there's a new thing, the regime evangelicals are always there to echo the thing.
Yeah.
Why is
the
that?
Current thing.
And do they notice the fact that nobody cares about what they say anymore? Or actually, that's not an accurate question because people do care still.
Yeah, enough people do
Why don't you
care.
reflect on that?
Man, I will try to reflect on it. Ukraine, I think, does have a special place, not Israel level, but there is a lot of Christian activity in Ukraine, a lot of like short-term missions trips and stuff. And it's one of the countries I think that was most kind of like open Eastern Bloc countries after the Iron Curtain fell to Christian influence coming in. And maybe you could be cynical in saying someone's parking money there or something.
I have some theories, actually. Yeah. I don't want to derail your answer, but
that's fine.
But I'm gonna. Well, I mean, well, part of it is like, well, it isn't even that schizo. It's because I know people that have gone there with church things. I know like the Assemblies of God denomination and many Baptist denominations are very active in Ukraine. But the history of American missions, especially in the second half of the 20th century, with the formation of the OSS and then the CIA, is like if you are an intelligence agency and you want to easily get people in and out of other countries, one of the best ways to do it is you go to different Christian organizations and say, hey, are you recruit people out of that, along with like big business, people that do international business, and along with organized crime. Like that's the big three: international business, organized crime, and missionaries. All right, as far as fronts for the CIA. So I don't have any evidence. I don't have any details. I just have like history and experience of how they operate. But if you wanted, if you've had a 30-year program of subverting Russia and trying to destabilize Russia's neighbors, and this particular country that borders Russia is basically ethnically identical to Russians, is wide open to missionaries, right? You're going to use that avenue to accomplish that. So, and this like bleeds into the discussion of like, why does Big Eva care about it so much? Like, why do they echo all of the talking points of the DC regime? Right. I think like the two, like they're intertwined. I don't, is that schizo? Is that crazy to, contemplate?
I don't think so. There could be a personal or benefit to ministries and so forth that they are trying to protect, but it also is in line with, I think, the liberal ideology. Zelensky is framed, and he framed it even in the White House recently, that he was the force of democracy and freedom, and Putin is anti-democracy and anti-freedom. So it's a very simplistic cartoon, I think, of the whole thing. Yeah. But that's something that it's like catnip for regime what did you say? Regime evangelicals.
That's his word. He coined that.
Yeah. And I actually mentioned that in my book, that like there's these interchangeable phrases. That's one of them. But Big Eva, and I talk about the evangelical industrial complex. I thought I was being clever, but no one really. It's a mouthful.
Yeah. Yes. So. CJ is the clever one, but it's hard to say regime evangelical.
It's a little.
I say it a lot, like in the evenings in front of the mirror. Evangelical. Now it just comes out.
For some reason, adding evenings to that makes it creepy.
That's weird. Yeah,
it's just strange.
Look, man, I'm just
more.
But I mean, I think
this is a premium episode.
Yeah, that's right. I think one of the things that you think about, and some of this, like right when the USAID stuff came out, like we all wanted it to be true, that it like just a simple like 1-to-1, like here's the check that they've been sending to Big Eva, like that they're purchasing. Yeah. And it's like it's never going to be that way. It's gonna if there is money flowing and changing hands, it's going to be laundered through like 300 different NGOs. But like obviously the way the influence works does follow that way, right? And
Well, it's a question. Like, is it ideology? Is it money? Is it both? And I think it's obviously both, but I actually think the ideology is more important than even the money. Because these guys will, like David Platt's a recent example of this. They will sink their churches into the ground, cut the size in less than half, and they will say that they are on the morally high ground position there.
Yeah.
And it's all ideological. So I think when Megan's book came out, which was really her claim was that she could find a lot of these ties to left-wing organizations funding the subversion of evangelical Christianity. And I think she proved that to some extent. That made evangelicals who are conservative excited, because all that means is we just take away the money and everything goes back to normal.
It's like, well, they still believe it.
And Megan doesn't realizes that, that's not the case. These guys are, they're revolutionaries. They really are down for the cause. So I think with Ukraine, there's definitely a strong ideological element here. They really think that Zelensky's in the right position. Putin's a monster. And anyone who doesn't see it that way must be on Putin's side. They're a monster themselves.
Yeah. If you're looking at it in terms of like foreign policy realism, like John Mearsheimer or something, like you just love Russia and Putin then and hate everything good. But yeah, I think the ideological component of it is not to be underestimated, for sure. That if you took away all the money, like they still are going to believe it, right? It's not like USAID funding just got pulled and now David French is going to pretend to be conservative again, right? Like that's not how it works. Like no, like he made his deal with the devil, and so I think the question that it comes to my mind is, right, you have this wide disparity between the laity, right, between people in the pews in these churches and their leadership, the leadership of big evangelical institutions, is they're like, it's like night and day, the difference between them. And obviously the wedge that is driving through them is Donald Trump. Right. What do you think the future looks like in 10 or 15 years? Right. Will there be a replacement of these leaders? Is a replacement of them even possible?
That's a good question. I mean, there's going to be a certain sector of them that survive, I think. Look at the Gospel Coalition right now. They are apparently, as someone told me who's kind of closer to them, that that they actually have an increase in their financial situation. And this I don't know exactly what makes sense of this. My working theory, if that's true, is that these older millennials, which is really what the Gospel Coalition is made of, have finally achieved kind of a level where they have enough resources to contribute, and that's what's contributing to that. But but those guys have a ways to go, and you look at their conferences, they can fill a room, but it's older millennials and up. They don't have a lot of young people there.
Yeah.
So how long can that go on? Probably for a while, to be honest with you. I don't think though that they're going to be breaking into new areas. They're kind of siloed at this point. They're not cutting edge anymore.
Where did they get their funding in the first place?
Gospel Coalition?
Was it all just grassroots?
Publishers, right?
I think it's a combination of things, but there was a kind of a groundswell of support for the Young Restless Reform stuff, and you had a lot of guys buying books and buying some. I mean, I was one of them to some extent. Now I'm younger a little bit, and I was not maybe as enthusiastic, but I mean, I remember I would purchase like John Piper's Tulip series or something. I wanted it. I wanted to go show up and see these guys. They were like Christian celebrities. So I think money just was attracted to them because of that. Because I don't think there was any USAID funding. I mean, and not that all the government funding is USAID, but linked to the Gospel Coalition. People were snooping around everywhere trying to find, and I don't think they found anything.
Yeah.
So
there is a
harder to find than that.
Yeah, because because like the government money is going to go to whatever whatever foundation, and then that group donates money to another NGO, and then another one where on the books it looks like it's private because it's coming from an NGO.
Well, it's like,
but it's all fungible,
church, right? So the people that attend his church, they give big checks. Where do they get their money? Right? They're working at all these NGOs.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Right?
Yeah. And I think people gave sacrificially because they thought this was the formula for Christianity to survive in the 21st century.
Of course.
Keller had the key, Moore had the key, Southern Baptists, of course, during the Great Commission resurgence, without necessarily the help of any government funding, decided to rearrange the structure of their entire denomination and their North American missions in particular to target urban areas, big cities, and to basically centralize everything. So these Baptist state conventions that existed before are now kind of eaten up by the Southern Baptist Convention. The money's going through a central entity. And one of the things they did was diversify. We need more younger and more diverse voices that are at the helm. So, hiring professors that are more diverse and young in their minds. And this was all parroting everything we saw on the government level. And you didn't even need the government.
They did.
It's all the same software.
They did DEI voluntarily.
So a lot of people did.
Let's talk about your book.
Well, thanks, CJ. It's awfully nice of you. I actually don't have the author copies yet. They're actually waiting, I think, right now at my doorstep.
Your agent didn't send us any.
Yeah, we didn't get.
I will send you some. I don't have any yet myself. You can order them right now, but
this is crazy. None of us have it, but what's in it? Looks really nice.
It's a beautiful looking book.
Yeah, it's a Thomas Cole painting that I really like that we put on the cover. But it's called Against the Waves: Christian Order in a Liberal Age, and it's really a lot of issues that we've been debating, talking about over the last few years since 2020, and some of these issues I wanted to understand better myself. But one of the things that I really wanted to do was communicate to conservatives, you need Christianity. You can't cut yourself off from the Christian foundations of conservative thinking. And then to Christians, you need to glean from the more the paleo conservative, but the rich conservative tradition that we have. You can't just say that we're going to be biblical and cast away conservatism, because this is part of your Christian heritage that you should conserve yourself. So I'm writing to both those guys, and with an eye towards kind of, if you want to say normie, but like your average Christian who just wants to follow. Yeah, right. I'm on the. I could say that. Who wants to follow the Bible, and you look at something like Stephen Wolfe's book, and he's arguing using a lot of sources from antiquity, from the Reformation in particular, and that doesn't resonate, I don't think, with a lot of your average Christians. And I don't make all the cases he makes, but I do. There's some overlap. Like when I'm talking about what a nation is, I'm trying to quote Bible verses. I'm trying to give people, here's the biblical understanding. Here's where you can go in your Bible at home to see this is what a nation is. And it's hard to argue with it when you see it in the clear black and white text. So I had that in mind. I feel like they're sometimes a neglected audience on the Christian right. And not on purpose, nothing malicious there, but they need it given to them in that digestible form. So I have stuff on what is a nation. I have stuff on managerial elitism. Why are all the institutions corrupt? Explaining that. I have stuff on leadership and just my own ideas about what the future looks like and how to navigate what's coming and whether good or bad. So it's got a strong localist focused. But there's stuff I just enjoy too, like the importance of being outdoors and not being addicted to screens, and how not to be addicted to screens. And so I would say if there's an umbrella that encompasses all 19 chapters and 5 appendices, it would be that there is a natural order God has set up. We should make sure that we conform ourselves to it, and there will be consequences if we don't do that, and there'll be blessings if we do. So
let's talk about the future. I mean, like, obviously people know you as a localist, right? Like that's just kind of like your background, a lot ideological or non-ideological background. You could say
not ideological. I have a whole thing on ideology. Bad. No ideology. And I don't use the word worldview once in the book.
Whoa.
Wow.
Not once. Yeah.
There we go.
Edgy.
So what do you make of things like the Christian nationalist phenomenon and people that are more oriented at a broader level? Do you think there's any use in that? And can people who are into that relate to your localist vision?
Well, I think that everything in politics, politics is the art of the possible, and it really depends on your particular situation, right? So we're both particularists. I think you're a particularist.
I am.
And we look at the situation and we we develop the cures for diseases, the solutions based upon the challenges and threats that we face.
Right.
And we want to conserve the good, true, and the beautiful, the transcendentals. And so that's what I'm trying to aim at, is these are the things worth preserving. Now, could you have an arrangement where it's a Caesarean figure and you are preserving those things better? I think that's possible, especially in an age when you have people that fail to govern themselves and make good decisions. You need a strong authority to do something like that. The question is, are we there? And I think it's complicated in the United States because we're an empire. We're very different depending on where you are. Where we're sitting right now in Gainesboro, Tennessee, people are pretty self-governing for the most part, as compared to probably where you came from and moved. And even places close to me where I live, this is a kind of a higher trust community, and people aren't gonna steal things, and you could leave your door unlocked more likely.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that I left my door unlocked, and like you have that like panic, and then I'm thinking like,
good thing we're not live right now.
Oh well, yeah, exactly.
Well, I was
unlocked right now. You can steal all my stuff.
I was looking at some property, and one of the homes just, I was knocking, see, no one's home. Obviously, it's on for sale. I just turned the knob to see it's open.
This is how he shops for houses.
He
just
breaks and enters.
I didn't say I went in. I just said it was open.
I just knocked at the door open. What do you do?
But okay. So to answer your question though, in this case, I think it would be for our situation, assuming that I live here too, we want to make sure that this community is protected. We want to conserve what's here. We're not here to change, revolutionize it. We're not here to make it part of this broader effort, even though by conserving it, maybe it is part of a broader effort, whether people know it or not. But we want to make sure that this locality is protected. And I think in a localist framework, that works better.
Yeah.
So,
one of the things that I try to get across to people is that when you talk about like a Caesarean figure, or talk about like someone who wields authority, what we're talking about is someone that's actually wielding authority and has power over this decentralized rogue bureaucracy.
Yeah.
We're not talking about a Caesar that comes in and puts a gun to your head and says, conform to my ways. It's like an everyday person. We're talking about someone who absorbs the power of Washington to himself and wields it against them. And that's the point of power, because who else is going to check that? What localist force is going to tell the Department of Education that it has to do X, Y, and Z? You need someone at the top doing
you
that.
Need a scaled,
the point of a centralized figure is to wield power against the managerial state.
Is not to collectivize and centralize power. Yeah. That's what happens when that's already been done.
Yeah.
That's the balance we're trying to work out, right? Is we need to meet these threats of scale with scale.
Because nothing that Trump and Musk have done, that they get criticized for being authoritarians, nothing they have done is directly exposing themselves to individuals. It's all against the machinations of Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
That's why they hate it.
Even historically, right? That part of this is like people just misunderstand what Caesar was, right? So you have this massive structure of the Roman Republic devolving into an empire where the patrician class just dominates everything. They've gobbled up all of the land, and the common people are just out of luck. And they also, right, you've conquered all of this land, you've gotten a whole bunch of slaves, and now, right, common people don't have work to do, right? So they're all in poverty. And so the great masses are like, things are messed up, we need to be fixed. So it's not like he's seizing all of this power and then lording it over all of the little people and just dominating them in this totalitarian way. He's actually a liberating force, right, against the already centralized power.
I love this topic too, because like people like Hayek, like classical liberals, this was their model. The question was, how does like Chile, right? Chile, how do they get out of their Marxist takeover?
Yeah.
You have a singular dictator.
Yeah.
Does that mean he exercises totalitarianism against his people? No. But what he does is he absorbs the Marxist bureaucracy and he does away with it. And he becomes a liberating force.
Yeah.
As an exercise of unitary power.
Yeah.
And so people have this model because they've been trained to oppose that. Why have they been trained to oppose that? Because they want the people to be addicted to the bureaucracy.
Yeah. Yeah. And you look at our situation today. I mean, you've talked about this before, like the revolution within the form, where people believe that the massive bureaucracy that we have in Washington, D.C., this huge, unaccountable, nominally part of the executive branch, with millions of employees, right, with the power to basically write all their own laws, that having that.
Well, Chevron preference got
yeah, it's true. Yeah.
So
They
can't just write their own laws.
Yeah, not anymore. But having
In
that,
theory.
that's freedom, right? That's democracy. That is self-government. It's all the things the founding fathers wanted, which is like the opposite of the case. And so,
But do you think people are self-conscious of that? I don't think they're.
No.
Yeah, I think
they have no idea.
Yeah, that's a hidden, you're not supposed to know about that, really. It just is a shadow that kind of exists beside them. And
well, and I mean, we have to also understand that, like, we are the most successfully propagandized people in human history. That in the Soviet Union, like, you could read Pravda and like everyone would know it's fake and it's not real and would laugh about it. Like we are at the level of, I mean, it's worse than North Korea, right? In one sense. I mean, North Korea, like it's all humiliation rituals and just absurd things that you have to parrot. But here, like, people really do believe the nonsense that is on the TV and like fully internalize all of it. Whatever it is. So like when they're told that Donald Trump is Hitler and Elon Musk is also Hitler, and that they're just taking over the country, they're going to force all women to be breeding stock, and they're going to let Vladimir Putin, also Hitler, take over the whole world. Like, they believe all of that. Like, they really do believe those things are going to take place, because the television is so powerful in their minds, and the education that they've been given, first in public school and then at university, is operates in concert with everything that reinforces that on the television and the news media and everything else.
It's all on Richard Weaver, man. It's all on Richard Weaver.
Yeah, it really is.
Great stereoptagon.
Yeah.
Don, do you think that younger people, like younger Christians that are, they're a little bit more, they're less trustworthy? You know, they don't look at the TV as an authoritative object anymore. Do you think that that's like a trend that's going to continue? And do you think that that's an optimistic thing? Yeah,
I think it's good to break the power of the legacy institutions because they're so corrupt.
What are some pitfalls, though, that they might follow?
Well, I was about to say, I think that the problem is, though, we lack stability and we don't have a natural hierarchy to replace these things. Yes. And you and I were talking about this a little bit last night in regards to history and identity and heritage and people who know more about the Marvel universe or anime or, whatever. They know about these fantasy worlds more than they do their own life and the world that, has been created by their own ancestors. So that's a big problem. I actually talked to someone recently who came to me actually at the conference I was just at and asked me about Lincoln. And it's like, I don't want to be like a cancel culture guy, but I'm kind of thinking Lincoln might not be good. What do I tell my kids? And I was like, well, I said, for your kids, they need to have heroes. And I think that you can tell them the truth about Lincoln. You can tell them about how Lincoln changed the nature of the federal union and some of the negative things. And I don't think Lincoln had a lot of virtue. There's a myth of Lincoln that says he did. But here's the thing. On a public policy level, we're pretty thin on heroes. So am I going to support taking down Lincoln statues? Well, no, not if they represent the mythos of Lincoln, the honest Abe. Like, people need honest characters, whether it's, and this is like maybe we get into the noble lie here, but but like
I go pro noble lie.
I figured you were.
What a shot.
I mean, obviously I want to see like good heroes that are virtuous men ascend, and in real life and also in platforming and our history and stories we tell each other. But without that, take away the legacy institutions that are holding things together, you could have some real gang warfare going on.
If you're like me, you grew up on beef jerky. It was a must-have for any road trip. But most beef jerky is loaded with sugar, soy, and nitrates. Ew. Farmer Bill's is a Christian-owned meat snacks company in South Dakota that offers pasture-raised meat snacks. They make biltong. It's like beef jerky, but air-dried with clean ingredients and way better. The pre-sliced biltong is perfect for protein on the go, and the slab is great for snacking or hosting a party. It's like a large, dry-aged ribeye with perfect marbling of fat.
Go to farmerbillsprovisions.com or click the link in the description below and use code CONTRA to save 20% off your order today.
Farmer Bill's Provisions, the perfect protein snack.
Stay safe. Mask up. Get the vax. Don't take unnecessary risks. Be careful. We've been coddled, smothered in warnings, trained to fear and avoid risk. We've been taught to play it safe and be on our guard. And not just against a scraped knee or a failed endeavor. No, we've been taught to censor our speech, our words, even our thoughts. Don't think those dangerous thoughts. Don't notice. Don't speak out. If you do, we're coming for you. Who's coming for you? It almost doesn't even matter. Whether it's the HR lady at your company of either sex, weaponized church courts, the social media censors, or even those you once considered allies. Watch out. Take care. Play it safe. But was it always this way? Have we always lived under this kind of stifling, wet blanketing panopticon? Is this the spirit of our Christian forefathers? Of the men who founded our nation in blood and in faith, willing to face down all the might of Britannia and her redcoats? There was a time when Americans didn't shrink from risk, when they would rather die than bend. Our Christian forefathers knew what it was to draw the sword and throw away the scabbard. They knew what it was to set sail for the unknown. They defied tyrants. They built, explored, and dared great things. Who settled this land? Who built one of the greatest nations ever to be? Who settled the West and covered the continent from sea to sea with a Christian people? Who searched out glories, crisscrossed the plains with railroads, and fought off usurpers and invaders on all sides? Risk wasn't a bug, it was a feature. Without it, our fathers knew, there was no greatness. And now, we're supposed to trade boldness for bureaucracy? We're supposed to tremble at the unknown instead of mastering it? We're supposed to bow and scrape, not even before bullets, but before HR ladies? We don't think so. It's time to remember who we are. This year, join us here at New Christendom Press for our annual conference, Safety Third, Recovering the American Will to Greatness. 4 days to forge new friendships, build coalition, and work to recover what was lost. It's time to reclaim the spirit that built this nation, to break free from fear, to risk, to build, to lead. The future belongs to the bold.
It's also like, I mean,
not good.
maybe, you know, it's also similar to, like, I saw during, you know, one of these protests in Great Britain, in London somewhere, like there's statues of Winston Churchill there, that some immigrant group was losing. Maybe it was a Palestinian protest. Who knows what it was? It doesn't matter. And they're like throwing paint on the statue of Churchill and then trying to tear it down. And like, I'm actually not particularly fond of Winston Churchill. I think he's, you know, one of the great villains of the 20th century. Like, he destroyed the British Empire, sent them to war unnecessarily. And yet I don't want his statue torn down by those people. Right? Like, I don't want that. I would rather have the British themselves take it down and say, oh, no, this was a mistake.
Well,
500 years from now, not allowing these foreign people who hate him because he's just a white man that ruled over England and didn't particularly like India, right? Like, that's why they're tearing it down. And so, like, it's the same kind of thing.
The
right?
thing I see right now in regards to evangelicals is we've just had this celebrity culture that reinforced the woke agenda, but they also were loyal to these legacy institutions. They were the products of them, but they also existed on another level. So why did people like the Gospel Coalition, since we keep bringing them up?
Yeah.
They like the Gospel Coalition because David Platt told them to, and Matt Chandler told them to, and Tim Keller, all their heroes told them that this is a good organization. But now the heroes themselves have, I mean, like, I could go through each one of them and give you like what's, you know, the rest of the story. Now they're not so much heroes. They're not so much platform. They still have some influence in a very narrow group, but the people who are disenchanted with them, where are they going to go? And it seems like, to me, what's happening is we have not replaced that celebrity culture, that shallow celebrity culture. People are warming up to new celebrities, people that they hear online and podcasts and so forth. And, I like what this guy says, I'm going to listen to him.
CJ Angle.
And CJ Angle is like the new celebrity. No, and obviously we all
Extremely niche.
we all yes. But I mean, I think what we're doing is obviously good. I love your show, and I think obviously I podcast, so I think there's something worthwhile there. But I want people to be grounded beyond just like Jon Harris said something, and I'm gonna or that's a really great way to get disenchanted if I say something one day you don't agree with, or I have a moral failure, or you need a more mature and holistic identity, and that I don't see that happening quite yet. Even though we're making progress with getting rid of legacy institutions.
Yeah, it is an interesting transitional period, because like nobody, this is actually has major pitfalls, because if nobody is trusted in the old establishment, then anybody that comes from that pedigree is no longer listened to. Well, you can delete your entire heritage that way. And this is what we were talking about last night, like why young men are getting into actually dangerous things, because in the course of tearing down the 20th century, they're thinking that there's nothing in their American past that they can leverage to defend themselves now. That's dangerous.
That's very dangerous. That's a deracinated population that's very open to being controlled. I think was it Patrick Deneen, I think, was talking about that in his book, that fascism and communism took advantage of people mostly because that the voluntary associations had already been stripped from their land, and they had no place of belonging. They were lonely, and this filled the void. And that's what I'm concerned about, is the void seems to be widening, even though I like the fact that we don't trust the legacy media, but we need to have, especially on the local level, I think that's where we have the biggest opportunity to build a new hierarchy forming. So
I think this point is, I mean, you could see it in a microcosm just in terms of like conspiracy theories, right? So I love conspiracy theories. I think they're great. I mean, some of them are really dumb, but some of them are interesting, and like, well, maybe that's plausible, right? I mean, and lots of people love conspiracy. We could make our whole show about conspiracy theories, and it would be like 20 times bigger than it is, right? So people,
we're beautiful losers.
Yeah, that's right. We're beautiful losers. We won't like a sully ourselves. But like what you see is, right, anytime a thing happens, right, and it's in the news, like I remember seeing this with the the plane that crashed, or the helicopter that crashed into the plane in DC, and everyone's immediately like, they don't trust the official narrative, which more often than not, it's a good instinct. But like what that does is leaves you vulnerable to, because it's a vacuum, and you're going to believe like some crazy schizo guy could go make a TikTok and say, here's what actually happened. The guy who was about to cure cancer was on that plane, and the army sent this woman to crash her helicopter into it on a suicide mission because the pharmaceutical companies would have lost trillions of dollars. Like, they could have made, like, just totally made up something like that, and there would be like 1 million people that would believe that.
My favorite recent one is the University of Alaska helped Joe Biden steer a hurricane into North Carolina so he could take the minerals. I've been to Fairbanks. I've seen the University of Fairbanks. They're not they're not doing that. They're not doing anything.
I think the same. I think we went there when I was a kid. They had like
it's so small.
They had like 1,000-pound pumpkin in the egg science.
They have an agriculture. It's weird when you pull in, you see this like field where they're trying to grow,
like, because they have like 23 hours of sunlight, and so they can grow massive stuff
in like 2 weeks.
And so anyway, but I don't think they quite have.
I don't think they're steering hurricanes in the Gulf.
Probably not. But
Gulf of America.
But like what that demonstrates though is, like, because of the loss of trust in things that people implicitly trusted, right? Important institutions that they just trusted to tell them the truth. Now that they know that they don't do those things, they will like disbelieve everything they say, even the things that are true and correct that they say. And this is not just like the news media. This is like evangelical institutions, right? That are like, here, this thing is a sin. And the Bible's always said this thing is a sin. And they're like, well, you lied to me about all these other things. What if it's not a sin? right? And then they go down a very dark path.
Well,
right?
and most people don't have the capacity or the resources or the hardware, really, the training to figure out some of like what's true and what's not in many of these scenarios. And that's not always, I'm not saying that's even a bad thing. That's just the way things are. That's just most people are going to be like that.
Human beings are not like,
and
you need other people to be able to ascertain reality and truth,
which is why we have mechanisms for aristocracies, natural aristocracies, or for forming hierarchies where people can say, I trust that system has done well for us. And the person above me in my community who I look to, my pastor trusts that, and
he trusts this,
and he trusts this. It sort of like builds on itself. Now we don't trust any of it now.
And
we have nothing to replace it with.
That's
podcasts.
That's the issue, is that
this is really blackpilling.
I'll try to bring us back out of this. But like,
you have two black pillars.
I know. About number. I got my dad here, and he's just like CJ too. So it's like, Gary, your only hope.
Bad place to push your hope.
He's Gary too, by the way, Dad. So I wasn't dishonoring my father by using his first name. But
producers.
No. But no. I think that when there is a vacuum of trust, I mean, it is a dangerous position. It's a dangerous circumstance to be in, where people can, they don't trust anybody, or they're too credulous. I mean, it's like a double-sided coin, where they don't trust institutions that used to hold trust, and then but there's a vacuum of credulity, right? That's it. They're gonna just implicitly trust somebody, and that guy's saying something that sounds like I like it. I'm gonna believe him, and they lead you down a path of insanity. And so that's the precarious position that we're in, and the moment that we're in is one where faithful Christian men, pastors and leaders, teachers, academics, the few that we have that are honest about things that all these people are dishonest about, have like this testing period where we can prove, are these guys legit or not, right? Because the whatever is going to come next has to be built on trust. And my thing, and I think, and it's probably why, I sometimes wonder, CJ, and maybe you wonder this too with your show, Jon, where it's like, why do people listen to what I have to say, right?
Why do people pay to listen to what we have to say?
Yeah, and if you aren't, or we're past the paywall part. If you're, thank you to all of you who are paying.
Free. We're not going to make people pay to hear Jon's pitch for his book.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right. Well, anyway, then you
CJ's on
should
my
be
side
paying. You all, where's the camera? You should be paying right now. But no. Anyway, but I often wonder, like, why do they listen? And I think it's because, like, I'm not always right about everything. I'm wrong about things sometimes. You can clip that if you want, Gary. I'm wrong about things sometimes. That's right.
Use it in a vulnerable moment later.
They'll just play it in the middle of something. Wrong. I'm wrong about things, but I'm always looking to be honest with myself, with what I'm talking about, with what I think about things. Like I'm not ever going to, be dishonest to the audience, to anybody, right? You're going to hear what I actually think, and also be honest when I'm wrong. Where it's like, oh, I was wrong about that. I got new information, and this is what's actually correct. Like I'll do that, right? And CJ, you do that, and Jon, you do that. Like I think those things, that's like the commonality of all our guys is, and you never have this moment where any of us are saying anything where it's like, because you could tell this, right? When people are talking about something, when they don't actually believe what they're talking about, but they're still saying the thing they're expected to say. Like we don't ever do that.
I have a question about this though, that I would like to throw out there. I'll ask you guys a question and get your take, because I've been thinking about this a little, and I don't know what the answer is. So, so image. So Nate Fisher said this a while ago to me, but image was sort of the commodity that the media used to portray itself and gain a following. Like they could produce images that now you can produce on your phone. So those images are devalued now, and that and this was, I think, maybe 2 years ago when we were talking about this, but that essentially having skin in the game, sacrificing, this is going to be the new rare commodity that people are going to be looking for because images are going to be worthless. But here's the thing that I'm noticing happening. Images are more easily produced. You can go into, a room like the room we're in now, and we can get really high quality audio equipment and lights and everything. And we can do what CNN does for much cheaper and much better. Right?
And we have about the
and we don't have to lie.
audience. Yeah.
And we have this thing probably bigger, probably bigger than CNN. But here's what I'm seeing. Like, there are definitely guys out there who are still, so they're sort of like showing that they have skin in the game by like going against the regime, when now it's sort of popular to go against the regime.
Yeah.
And but then they do a highly produced image, and they could be grifters, right? Like your Andrew Tate types, like they could be super grifty. Yeah. And the image is still wowing people. That doesn't seem to change. Like people are still looking for the image. And I don't, so what you just said, this is what I've wondered about myself a little bit with the podcast. I say the same thing you just said, like, hey, go check it out for yourself. I'm not always right. Thanks for listening. we're just all learners together. But, does that hurt me? As far like, and even if it did, I don't care. I'm going to do that.
Of course. Yeah.
But if people are looking for this image of like total confidence in an age when they are unstable and looking for that, then a guy who's doesn't even know what he's talking about, but is super confident. And
I don't know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm saying? But like
no, yeah.
No, but like your Andrew Tate types can like
100% know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. Like a lot of the people that ascend the ranks of like social media and podcasting are guys who sometimes don't know what they're talking about. Sometimes they're in it for the wrong reasons. They want money, and they just can pitch the wildest theories or be really confident about something.
It's easy to be
and it's a rock. People are drowning and they grab that. They think it's a rock to grab. So like when it look, for the future, I don't know. Is it going to be skin in the game? Because now it's cool to be against the regime.
Yeah, I think it's skin in the game. I think but I also think it is the things that you're doing and that we're trying to do where like the commitment is to honesty, right? The commitment is to in every sense. Like, I'm telling the truth, and I want to tell the truth when I'm wrong about something, but I'm going to give a take, and I might be wrong, but in the moment, I'm going to think I'm right. And
will virtue and humility, the cardinal virtues, become the commodity? Will that become the thing that people look to?
Yeah, because it's a question of what how do you gain trust of people? I look at it. I think when I think about the people that like I listen to, or the people I read, as far as political commentary or cultural criticism, or whatever. I think about it. It's always over a long term, right? It's always a question of, all right, here's this major event, this major thing that took place. What was their view on it at the time? Did they, when they got new information? So like the pivotal examples, like the Iraq War in 2003, right? So I look at people who did political commentary at the time, and it's people could be wrong about that. I think, like was Tucker, was he pro Iraq? I think he was pro Iraq War,
very much so.
And yeah, he definitely was. And because I've seen him talk about being wrong about that, and admitting, in 2014 or 2015 that he was very wrong, or even earlier than that he was very, very wrong about it. And you see that, and then over the next 10 years after that, right, he took the lessons of being wrong about that to heart, and you see his commentary on geopolitics and things like that since. And you look at the people who were dead wrong about Iraq, like Jonah Goldberg, right? I mean, somebody quote tweeted the article where it's like, oh, the Iraq War was a mistake, but it was a good mistake, or something like that. And it's like, what? Or I mean, all of these things, right? That they learn no lessons about anything, and yet for what, like this authority is conferred upon them. Like, look at someone like Bill Kristol, right? Who like, you could set your clock to the opposite of whatever he says being reality,
You just feel sorry for like, Ron Paul and Pat Buchanan.
Oh yeah.
And,
yeah.
all the guys who got Mel Bradley, all the guys who
Yeah.
are kind of like blacklisted, or they're all right.
All
But they're
right,
not
yeah.
like, they should be honored now for how right they were, but
Absolutely.
they're not. And people just pretend like they've always held their positions.
Yeah.
It's a
many
weird,
such cases.
many such cases.
But I think I think I look at those things. I look at the people who have either been consistent, or when they're wrong, they admit it, and they have learned lessons from being wrong, which makes their commentary more valuable. Like that's the thing. Like 10 years ago, I didn't think all the things I think today. CJ didn't, like none of us did. And I've learned a lot of things along the way, and have been very open about, oh, I used to think this and now I think that, and here's why. And I think people value that. I think people value they value that degree of honesty. And I don't know. I think, on into the future, like the things that will have, credibility and institutional value, that will gain institutional trust, will be the things that prove themselves to be sort of Lindy, right? If you're familiar with that, term, Lindy?
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I don't know what it means, but I always
Okay. Well, yeah.
I've heard it and I pretend I know.
Okay. Well, I'll explain it. This is what we're gonna have
Can you
to put.
explain a couple other memes while you're
Yeah,
at
that's
it?
right. We'll put this all behind the paywall, so people have to pay for the lore. But no, Lindy, it's from Nassim Nicholas Taleb's it's The Black Swan or Fooled by Randomness, or one of his books, where there was this like cafe on Broadway called like the Lindy Cafe, and they basically figured out, a system for like a show on Broadway, how long it was going to run. If it lasted like X number of weeks, then it was going to last that many much more weeks. Like, so if it lasts like 30 weeks of a run on Broadway, well, it's going to last at least another 30, right? So like past a certain point of longevity, things will continue on, in perpetuity, right? So colloquially, it's kind of this thing where it's really old and it stands the test of time, right? That's what Lindy means. So you want an institution to become Lindy, right? You want it to be, it's Anti-Fragile is the book, right? You want it to be anti-fragile. Or you want it to be like the shocks and the convulsions and things that happen. Not only it could survive those things, but actually makes them stronger, right? Like that's what you want your institutions to be. And so if it's one that can be trusted, and it is built around, right, just being honest, right, just being worthy of trust, and proving yourself worthy of trust, right, that goes the longest way with people.
Yeah, and this is one of the pitches I make. I think really goes along with what you're saying for solid voluntary associations. We've lost that.
Yeah.
And I think if you want to make your community strong in Bedford Falls and not, Pottersville, then you need to make sure those voluntary associations come back. And I would say this to people even in my audience, that they look at me sometimes and they want to change the world. And that what's the first thing people say when they're like, I want to change things? What's their first pitch usually? What are they going to do to change things? Start a podcast, right? That's what I hear all the time. Like I want to be, what you're doing stuff, John. Like I want to go start a podcast, and maybe for some people that is how God's wired them. But I think for the vast majority of people, that's not it. It's get involved as much as you can with the local community. Be involved in voluntary associations. These actually have way more influence in governing than the central authority in some ways, at least in the lives of people on the ground level. And and I think those things do have resilience. They can stand the test of time. A lot of the organizations that we've even seen crumble, like the Boy Scouts of America and like the veterans groups, like these things were around for a long time before they started showing cracks. If there were some faithful, virtuous men, I don't think they would have fallen. So we just got to get back to that.
I think so. There's so many different, especially like local community organizations. I think one of the, it's funny, like probably the most impactful thing you can do anywhere is coach youth sports, right? Coach like a little league baseball team, and like get really good at it, and just be an excellent coach.
You're like a father figure to those kids.
The impact you have on young people when they're especially in a very formative stage, is massive. Like everybody remembers that played sports, like the best coaches they had, right? The ones they had a good, really good, tight relationship with. And like you can do that. And there's so many organizations like that. I mean, even especially within like a completely deracinated, dysfunctional society, one of the only like voluntary, localist organizations that still exists is like travel sports. I mean, this is why, like,
yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, it's awful because like, one, it's like replace the church for most of the population. But like, that's the only thing where they know their neighbors.
And there's a local identity with it too.
And it's our town and all of these things. It's like, like people love to slam it and attack it. And I get it. Cause people should be in church, not, driving 6 hours to play softball or something. But like
programs like I was in Boy Scouts.
Yeah, me too.
Programs like the Boy Scouts are so just, I think, underappreciated in Big Eva world because they're, I don't know, maybe it's too Americana, it's too kind of old school, but these are the things that really form
for boys.
It's for boys.
Or used to be.
Yeah. Now it's just scouting, but now there's trail life, right?
Yeah.
So you can get involved with one of those things. But I've seen amazing things happen in that. I saw amazing things happen in college ministry when you just invite people to your home and show them what a stable household looks like.
Yeah.
And people that have never seen that are attracted to it. And you can really give some stability to people that don't have it by doing something so simple and easy.
Yeah.
So, I feel like you haven't said much, CJ.
No, I'm just hanging out. This is fun, man.
You have a lot to say, though.
You gotta say something, man.
It's an honor to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Co-host.
Third wheel in here.
I know.
It's okay. I got my questions in early. I don't want to take too much of John's time, so you can whatever.
Well, however long you want.
Yeah, I guess we're thankful for you coming on, but we wanted to really just get you to have a chance to talk about your book and what you see.
Yeah, tell us the title again one more time.
Against the Waves, Christian Order in a Liberal Age, JonHarrisPodcast.com for signed copies, Amazon.com. It's going to be on Audible soon. It's on Kindle.
Are you reading it?
I am.
Nice.
No AI. I do it old school. I want people to hear my voice.
Return.
That's right. Yeah, it was just tough, but I've done all my books,
I've never done it. It's hard.
I like when authors do their own books because like there's a lot of inflection and emphasis that the author will.
Well, at midnight, I don't know if I remembered what inflection I intended. I'm just reading like a zombie.
I'm
just trying to.
That's true.
But
it's still good. You should still buy it.
You should still get it. Yeah, right.
I've never read. I mean, I've never read my books into the machine. But maybe I should.
Yeah,
I got some good lines.
I love audiobooks.
Yeah,
I love audiobooks.
Yeah.
I hardly. I mean, I do read. I mean, I'm not like CJ, but I read a little bit. But audiobooks.
He's like, what's that supposed to mean?
Well, you read like a lot.
I think that I read a lot.
He just buys books. He never reads them.
So you're a grifter.
Of course, I'm a podcaster. Why wouldn't I be?
You're who I was talking about earlier. You have an image.
Yes,
it's all fake.
As soon as I'm done here, I'm going to go read my first book. I'm convicted.
No, I love listening to audiobooks. My wife, who will eventually listen to this whenever we post it, will complain because like I turn on the audiobook to fall asleep and then set the sleep timer. And then so like my routine as I'm falling asleep each night is like I turn the audiobook on. I'm like, I don't remember this part. Back up 20 minutes. Still don't remember. Back up 10 minutes.
The Elise don't want you to know this, but you can just play books all night and say that you've read 40 books.
No, I listened to the whole thing. Like
I'm more impressed that your wife listens to your podcast. It's amazing.
I think she wants to know, hey, am I,
mentioned?
Did she?
What are you saying about the
family?
family?
Saying about me? No. She's entertained by it.
That's great.
She always, really, I think she's more like protective of me. She's like, okay, Andrew, you should not have said that about CJ. You are going to really hurt his feelings.
Sounds
saying
like
that.
Protective of me.
Yeah. Well, though, I think it's more like you're being a bully to CJ. You got to knock it off. People are not going to like you anymore. And she doesn't care about you at all.
She's curating your image.
That's right. Yeah. It's like, no, you should just say like, honey, guys just do that. Like you got to rib your buddies a little bit.
I think my wife considers me a hopeless case.
I remember when we had gone through our podcast like 12 to 18 months, and my wife's like, "Wait, you have a podcast?"
When did you start doing this? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just it. Like, she just lets you do whatever, it's just, you're off doing your own thing, hiding among your books.
This does present a great opportunity, though. That, on a serious note, audiobooks, podcasts for the farmer who's out there with time to mindless work, perhaps. One guy that listens to my podcast, he's in a tractor all day, and he listens to everything. He's probably more educated than a lot of the undergrad profs out there.
No, that's the thing. Like, my dad was a truck driver for how many years? 30 years? Yeah, close to 30 years. And I rode it with him when I was a kid, and he didn't listen to as many audiobooks or anything, but I got a 3-hour education every day, every weekday. The
Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Conservative
Studies every day. Like, I knew way more about Monica Lewinsky than any 8-year-old should know about. Like, I remember we were eating at Sizzlers or something, and I started like quoting something Rush said, and like my mom turned beet red.
What's your earliest political memory?
The 1992 presidential election.
Okay.
And I campaigned for George H.W. Bush at the Waseca Hartley Elementary School, and he actually won. And so later that night, I was really devastated because he won the election at school. So why did Bill Clinton win? Like,
that makes no sense.
I was in kindergarten. Like, I didn't.
Fraud.
I did. I think someone should look into this. Actually, I think Bill Clinton was not a legitimate president.
OJ for me. I remember the OJ trial. Yeah. I remember Limbaugh on TV talking about OJ.
Oh, because he had a show at that time. Yeah.
What about you?
I just remember kids asking me at school if my parents voted for Bill Clinton.
That was all Bill Clinton for us. Wow.
Yeah, that was 96.
Kids asked you that?
Yeah, that was 96.
Oh yeah, you were in California, of course. Yeah.
Well, no. Well, in my school, it was a bad thing. Right?
Oh, good. Oh, good. Oh, yeah, you were in conservative California. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right. What am I saying? You were homeschooled. I was in public school. I remember, like one of my memories, a distinct memory, politically, was in 1998. I was 12 years old, and the gubernatorial race in Minnesota was a huge deal. And Jesse Ventura came to our tiny little town, and he came to the Busy Bee Cafe. Remember that? And he came and talked, and he stood in front of me, and he had like a suit coat on, like a brown corduroy suit coat, and I touched it. And he was actually a pretty good governor, I think, more or less. And my dad voted for him.
Did you? Yeah.
Because the Republican was awful.
I think we are the last of the Cold War generation.
Yeah.
Like that, and I think the war on terror kind of extended that a little bit. But like I don't know what that means about us. We probably think about things a little differently than Zoomers.
Well, I think the millennial is very much in like a foot in both worlds, where it's really an epochal change in history that we straddle the line of.
We really do.
Do Zoomers have a sense of like that 20th century patriotism that we absorbed?
I don't think they do.
No,
not the ones I know.
So
no,
I mean, see that. So they're very right wing, but they don't have that sense of rooted.
Some of them have it in like a meme version.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
But not like this deep, genuine like. No, I just really love America. Like, this is my home. It's more like Hulk Hogan and fireworks,
Eagles, tanks,
and Zoomer edit videos and stuff. Yeah,
I think that like even through my libertarian years,
Creed halftime show,
my right wing or whatever years, I still am very critical of American involvement in World War II, and yet when I see a World War II plane, I still have a sense of like Americanness.
Yeah, like there was
not.
I don't like. Did you
I
see
don't know if Zoomers have that.
Yeah, did you see the picture of the Corsair? The F4 or the F4 Corsair in the Pacific, and there's it was a recolorized image, and there's a bunch of Navy guys in the shirtless, but they got the hats on. They're working on the plane, and there's like these palm trees in the background. It's just gorgeous. Yeah. And it's like, and you see that, and it's like pure Americana, right?
My grandpa was a World War II vet, so It's like it's personal for me. Did you guys see that that show? Was it Aviators or Masters of the Sky?
Yeah,
I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Dude, I cried.
Yeah,
I just cried watching.
Dude, it was hard
that.
to watch. Actually, it was harder to watch than like the Pacific or Band of Brothers.
Me too, because my grandpa was in aviation. But why
yeah,
for
well,
you?
my dad's uncle was a B-17. Yeah, you're not on the mic; they can't hear you.
I had two uncles.
He had two uncles.
My uncle was the younger uncle was a B-17 flight engineer.
Younger uncle, B-17 flight engineer. I'm just so people can hear.
Yeah, your Uncle Paul.
Uncle Paul.
Yeah, Paul Isker.
Yeah, I think on his 8th or 9th mission, they were going over to bomb Germany, and I don't know where somewhere that disputed border between France and Germany.
Yeah,
there was like 50 Messerschmitts came and it was devastated.
Yeah.
See, I'm already getting tingles down my spine.
Yeah, you need to watch. You need to watch the series because it's hard.
I didn't realize this until a few years ago. They didn't bring his body back for 4 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
48, his body was brought.
Yeah, 3 years after the war.
Whoa.
He was shot down in 44, the fall of 44.
There's
I've
May
never heard of
1944.
that.
It was May
Make sure to
1944.
repeat that in case.
Yeah, in case yeah,
Some French people apparently found him
and buried him.
and
Yeah.
buried him
Yeah.
because they didn't want the Germans doing whatever they.
Yeah.
So
We got to get you a
the
mic,
other
Dad.
uncle
We got
was,
to get you a mic.
ethnic, right? He came back unscathed.
Yeah.
My dad was 4F. He had flat feet. They wouldn't take him.
Yeah. Yeah. See, this is why we wanted to have you on the podcast,
If they'd
Dad.
have
So,
taken him, I might
yeah.
never have been born.
Yeah, but like listening to
Yeah.
like when Stephen
Yeah.
Wolf talks about like your grandpa was in
Yeah.
World War II,
yeah.
like we've never met each other, but you're talking, I'm thinking about my family. Like I'm totally like we're all Americans,
Mhm.
and that
Mhm.
common experience shaped us
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
And I think we're the last
My
generation.
great-grandfather, he was Army Air Corps.
That's
Yeah.
what. Yeah.
My great-grandfather
Where was
In
he?
Europe?
In Europe, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember the unit, but and that's my great-grandmother was a war bride.
Where did he serve? Was he like going to North Africa or like England or? Okay.
Mm.
So he may have been, the guys in that series.
Yeah. I mean, my because it was on the 8th Air Force and
Yep.
my great uncle Paul was in the 8th Air Force. So watching that and like just seeing these planes get tore up, like especially the early missions that they went on, and they're like 11
They're
out
kids.
of 11 out of 12 of them get shot down. Yeah, they're all like 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
And it was interesting watching that. I was talking to a friend who's like, a stats data, nerd. And he's like, actually, like if you do an analysis of it, they should have flown those planes just with the pilot, co-pilot, and bombardier instead of a 10-man crew, because so many got shot down and the machine gunners didn't actually provide enough benefit to be worth
So they didn't
like
know.
losing that many. But you have no
Yeah.
idea. And I mean, it wasn't until they, the P-51D came out where it had much longer range and could accompany the bombers the entire way. And especially after you've already devastated the Luftwaffe and they just don't have planes and men, that then the missions were much, much more successful. But like early on, they're just going over there and getting shot down and killed.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that Hitler did not. They had the jet propulsion engine.
Yeah.
They just couldn't.
He was
I've
not
seen some of
really-
those.
He was really not in favor.
Yeah, I think part of the ME-262. Now we're gonna get into deep World War II nerdery here. But like the ME, I mean, it was.
TJ
it
hasn't
was
even said anything.
Yeah, it was
yet.
a question of production and economics. Like it just took so much time to build a jet engine compared to like a radial engine that they couldn't get as many off the line to be able to build their whole force out of it. But and I mean part of it too is like jet engines consume a lot more fuel, and I mean the entire Eastern theater of, or European theater of war is like the issue for Germany is oil and
Also, it's for Japan too.
yeah, I mean both really.
Why they went after? Yeah. I feel like you had a point. We just
yeah
interrupted
yeah
you.
we just totally interrupted you.
I don't remember.
Yeah, you're gonna talk about your family in the war.
Yeah, my great grandpa was a Marine.
I thought you were going to say, yeah, they fought for the Italian army.
They were fascist.
I'll never be American.
So my great grandpa
like
Giuseppe.
20% Italian, and it's never going to be good enough.
I feel bad for all of our Italian listeners. They probably think like I just have this like anti-Italian bias.
We have this one like commenter who's always like bringing it up. Like, you guys aren't even like,
You're not a real American.
It's always me. Like, you're not a real American.
He goes after me
go back
too.
to Italy.
Yeah. He goes after me too, but like he brings up like Benjamin Franklin, like his definition of like what white
the
was.
Germans or
where it's like they're swarthy and it's like like Northwest Germany, like where my paternal ancestry is from, and my maternal actually, was part of the zone of Saxons that Franklin said these are our people. So like I get to be an American too.
As a heritage American, 100%, Jamestown and Plymouth.
You were the guy.
I hereby grant you both under the Proposition Nation status as heritage American.
You heard it here, everyone.
Yeah.
A Mayflower American, a Jamestown
totally
American
a
has
ladder puller. Like, once my family's in America, that's it.
no more Americans after that. No, I mean it is interesting though. I mean, even on that subject, how with each new iteration or phase of America, and I think just the concept of like ethnogenesis, like how does a new nation, a new particular people, form. Like each time there's a new segment of new arrivals to America, there's a giant conflict that they take part in and fight it. Like, so even, so like the war between the states was one of them. And that's difficult because like you have all of these Irishmen and Germans that come and fight for the Union. And it takes 40 or 50 years before then those two begin to have identity as a common people.
You could even argue World War I and then World War II really patched up whatever differences were there. My grandpa even taught. He was from rural Mississippi. He was in the Pacific Theater, and he loaded bombs on B-25. So he was an armorer, and I have all his letters, by the way. So I'm actually doing a book of his time in the war. But he went before he died last year at 101, and he was pretty lucid. So I would talk to him about the war even till the end. And like just a wealth of, I mean, he remembered Confederate soldiers, he remembered slaves. I mean, he's that old.
Wow.
Like, yeah. I mean, the math actually works. But he would like go to New York. He'd meet these people from all over the United States that he had never met before from other regions. And it was like, it was a unifying experience in a way. Like these people who were against us, they didn't like Yankees. The Yankees, like they were like the ones that came down and burned our farms, burned our churches. And now I'm fighting alongside of them against Japan. This became part of, I think, what made them Americans together.
Well, and again, you win the respect of other people from different regions, where like when you're fighting alongside someone.
But I don't like to your point. I don't think Zoomers have that anymore. They're so disconnected from their heritage.
That was my original point.
We finally made it back to it.
As millennials, though, we do have the last breath of that.
But one of the things that's interesting.
Do you think there'll be an attempt to? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, but here's the thing. So, like, millennials are having like a lot of right-wing young Christians are having children, and I'm patriot maxing to them. In a much more like self-conscious way than my parents did to me. So I don't know if it's going to be totally lost in that regard. I think there are hundreds of thousands of kids coming up that are absorbing this because we are so. Like we sort of received it like insipidly, like like my parents were my parents didn't realize they were engaging in culture war. I do, and I think you two do as well. When we raise our kids, we are treating them as if we're preparing them for a culture battle.
I don't know.
So that's part of that inheritance of patriotism.
Well, I don't think anything's ever totally lost.
No,
I really don't. I mean,
it's never over.
No, but I really think that there's like a silver lining. Like even. Reviving Rome and Greece and like the founding fathers. That's where they're getting their ideas, right? I mean, was that lost? Or I mean, they're learning the lessons from these things. It was lost.
That's the meaning of Christian.
I see a lot of Roman architecture in the South. I think it was was restored.
It was
little bit.
lost, but not entirely.
It's a garden that just needs a little bit of work, you know. It's just got weeds.
But I think to that point though, even the meme
we got a white pill.
Yeah, even the meme patriotism of the Zoomer male, like you do things ironically or in a LARPy way or a meme way, and then you eventually do them genuinely. Right? Like there's a cycle to that where you LARP it till you make it.
Well, I think about what we're doing here, you know, like
we're
how long have we
LARPing.
been talking about these things?
Yeah.
Through our different phases.
Yeah.
Sometimes on completely different terms.
Yeah.
But we've always wanted some sort of future, right?
Yeah.
That's what we've been doing. And now it's real. And now we're literally putting shovel to dirt and we're doing it.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
The transcendent things never go away. I guess maybe that's
right.
The things that truly matter.
Yeah.
So
man, this is
so we fight for.
What a great way.
Yeah, we're still drawing breath. They haven't killed us yet. It's
no, they're defeated.
Yeah,
they're defeated.
It's I mean, I just
they
think
have to live in God's world.
I just think of one of my favorite songs, "Rooster" by Alice in Chains. Right, that's about my dad's generation.
I don't actually know this song.
You don't know that? Gary knows this one. You don't know it? Oh man,
that's an obscure reference.
We can't play it because
Sing it. Just
the copyright. The copy. Well, get your guitar out and.
I'm sure with your singing, it won't strike our copyright.
Yeah. The AI will not pick it up.
Yeah. Anyway, everyone out there knows what I'm talking about, and the lead singer, he wrote it about his dad who fought in the Vietnam War, and how does it go? Yeah, they come to snuff the rooster, but he ain't gonna die. Right, it is powerful. I'm gonna start crying. Right, and
we all have our roosters.
That's right. You got to be the rooster.
Yeah.
Right, you got to be lugging a machine gun through the M60 through the jungles of Vietnam and just letting the bullets fly by you. Right, It
seems like when there's struggles and poverty and those kinds of things, that's where you see the culture come out. Mm-hmm. The art reflects it. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, you're digging deep into your roots to try to find something that's meaningful.
100%. Yeah. And on that note, now we can end. Anything else, CJ?
No, that's it.
All right. Say the book one more time, John.
Against the Waves, Christian Order in a Liberal Age, JonHarrisPodcast.com.
Right, go get John's book.
Can you believe we flew him all the way down to Tennessee to talk about this book?
I drove, actually. But...
Yeah. On a free episode.
We are good people.
That's right.
Yeah, 16-hour drive. I'm just like, windshield. I'm like,
got to talk about the book.
Trying to have Contramundum.
Yeah, yes. That's right.
Is this a podcast or is this charity?
Oh, wow.
Wow. Anyways, all right. Have a good week.
Thank you.
Wow. What a way to end.